Good morning, Jim.
Good morning, Becky. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, everyone. I guess it's almost, well, it's still morning, but how are you doing today, Jim?
Uh, I'm doing all right. It's snowing outside again, and I'm like just trucking along today. I just said, if anything, I've had one cup of coffee so far today, and I have one more to go for my daily, pretty much my limit. So I'm on my second one now, and today I actually need it.
There you go. I mean, I've got tea. I got hot tea today and
Yes.
coffee. So I have got two coming at me right now, but
Yes, I was drinking water this morning. I'll probably have a hot cup of tea or two this afternoon and just to stay warm. But
awesome. Well, speaking of which, I mean, we talked about it snowing, but what are you doing right now to feel less overbooked? What'd you do in the past week?
in the last week, oh my gosh.
I don't even know what the week was.
Do you know what? I would have to say, like I said, I spent the weekend with my mom, or at least Friday night, Saturday, and then Sunday was Valentine's Day.
Ooh.
So I decided on Valentine's Day, my wife and I just spent a little more time together that day. So like just maybe watching a little bit of Hallmark and there was an old classic, well, not an old because it came out after I was born, but Roxanne from the 1980s. We watched that movie. I had my stepsons and like we just did like a little like gift opening of some couple like little presents and that. And so they had asked, they wanted to go outside and for us to play basketball together. So we spent the afternoon outside shooting some hoops and playing in the snow. And so I would say that was a way I felt less overbooked because everything else was just put to the side. And
Awesome.
family came first and we had a great day. And just moving along this week in a great forward fashion. So it's all
Yeah.
good. What do you do?
You know what, Jim? And, I took a day off and I don't know when the last time well, I guess Christmas was the last time I took off. So, it was nice and I stayed in my pajamas all day. I did work out. I did do some self-care and worked out a little bit, but I guess staying in pajamas is self-care too. So then,
Yes.
stayed in my PJs and I read a whole book. So
Oh, an entire book?
well, okay. I had already started it before, so I finished it, but it took
Okay.
me all day. So I read American Dirt, one of Oprah's book club ones. So that was good. And then I
Okay.
started Cast. So another Oprah book, but really good. And it was just nice. It was nice to sit down and read and do nothing. And my husband was fantastic. He was just like, it's your day off, whatever you need me to do. I was like, oh, I'm definitely working this one. So yeah,
Wow.
but awesome. So, Jim, we've got a lot to talk about in these three chapters. And you and
Yes.
I were just sort of talking about it right now, passing in the hall, but man, so much.
I,
And I'm going to jump right in.
before you do jump in, one other thought I was just going to say, like in chapters 5, 6, and 7 that we're going to talk about today, there was so much valuable, helpful, um, just incredible information like in these chapters. So if you've read it already, great. If you haven't yet, that's great too, because when you do get to it, you're going to see the same thing. So we're going to touch upon some of the highlight key points in these chapters at this time. So Becky, chapter 5 was the re-engagement chapter.
Yeah. So, like, when you first realize, well, not first, but if you know, like, okay, I'm completely disengaged, how do I re engage? And again, it goes with Manny mentions it's just like disengagement. You also have a choice to re-engage, right? And
Yes.
it doesn't happen overnight. I will say on page 82, I was laughing out loud. Like when she said, these seem obvious, but when I'm stressed, I don't reach for the celery. So if you're someone that reaches for celery, please give me your willpower, because I was like, I don't know who reaches for celery when they are stressed. But the idea of like when you get secondary traumatic stress or you feel demoralized, how do you re-engage? And on page 86, she lays out some steps that she has found helpful to re-engage. One, understand disengagement, how it happens and how to get back, which was the first part of this book, which we've already discussed. The second thing she says is review and renew relationships. The third thing, authentically reflect. The fourth thing, discover and focus on a passion area. And the fifth thing, celebrate quick wins and little joys. So, Jim, which one of those, and I'm sure many of them, but for time's sake, which one of those really stuck out to you out of those 5 steps?
You know what? I was just going to say, discover and focus in the areas where I want to work on. And number 5, celebrate the quick wins and little joys. It's not the finish line. It's the steps that we take to get to the finish line that are important. So it's like those little things. I could probably give one quick example. Yesterday morning, I was on that treadmill at 6:10 yesterday morning.
Good for you.
And I was like doing a 45-minute workout, you know what I mean? And I kept saying, I need to get back to doing a morning workout again. I need to get back. And you know what? I've been waking up earlier again. So you know what? When I get up, it's like, you know what? Get that little bit of coffee in me if I need it. But otherwise, I've been back to doing a morning workout. And you know what? It's been wonderful because then I feel great for the rest of the day. And it's like just those little steps, you know what I mean? So, and I said, that was so important what you just said, Becky. If, like I said, just to reiterate a little bit, it has to be a personal choice that I wrote here. It's not something that you're doing because someone else is doing it. You have to make that choice.
Right.
And it's like, and in your way, what is going to be valuable and key for you? And I was just going to say too, it's like we're trying to avoid that burnout. And at the same time, you know, as far as just moving through here, like, what are we going to do for those areas of growth? Like when she talked about the demoralization, and like, what are we going to do to begin to moralize?
There you go. Good job.
Correct
Well,
out.
for
So
me,
thank you.
yeah, for me, one of those big things for re-engagement is reflection. And I love
Yes.
how she started talking about it on page 94. And she talks about like, oftentimes we just say, well, how could things have gone better? How could they have gone differently? But that's not true authentic reflection. It's just surface area, because I can still point fingers like, oh, well, Jim didn't do this. That could have gone differently. Just using an example, Jim, of course. But she gives 5 questions then to reflect, you know, is there something in my own personal or professional journey that is creating an assumption or bias? Are my expectations appropriate? What could I have adjusted to create a possible alternative ending? Do I have something to apologize for? And I think that's really important. We don't want to overuse the term sorry. It goes back to, again, our people. Again, I love Rachel Hollis, her book, Stop Apologizing, right? There's some things we don't need to apologize for. But if it is something that we need to apologize for, you need to apologize, right? So she
Yes.
says on page 97, am I really sorry, or am I just saying it to move on? And then the last question, what did I do that went really right? I think that's really important to reflect on the good and the bad. And then I always encourage, especially with my colleagues that I work with, and some teacher leaders, like, okay, so you've reflected, now what? Like, you've learned from it, take that time to process it, but now what? And so that, I thought, was really important, that reflection piece. And I really enjoyed how she included reflective questions, because some people don't know where to start yet. As far as chapter 6, what are your thoughts on chapter 6?
Chapter Positivity. That was like one of my favorite chapters. No, I mean, every chapter is my favorite, but this one here, at least, you know, like I was just going to just add one more quick thing for chapter 5.
Okay. Yeah.
You know, I mean, that professional learning network, and as well as your professional learning family. Do you know what I mean? Like you and I, it's like, I feel like we're a family. Do you know what I mean? It's like times like I was ready to say this and I thought, wait a minute, no, you just said it. You know what I mean? Like you're thinking what I'm thinking and I'm thinking what you're thinking a lot of times. And that's why I think we work so well together too.
Right.
So, but like we support each other through the joys, through what's going well, and the areas where like, oh boy, I'm really feeling like I need some support today. And like you always have my back and I've got yours, of course. So, but I think that also what's so important moving into chapter 6, going into like, you know, like starting to go into as far as the habits, the mindfulness, the positivity, the gratitude, and the purpose. Like all those key words were so very, very important. Like we talked about, what were our habits going into mindfulness? So like I said, as far as 3 ways to deal with emotion: feel, share, act.
Yeah.
3 words: feeling, you must feel the emotion, you must share it with someone else, and then you must act on it. So like, that's my question, is like, what's your next step? What are you going to do to support and to, to act on it?
And before you move on from that, you and I sort of talked about this a little bit too. That act is so important because it can make or it can break you. My
Yes.
brother, it's really interesting. We were having a conversation the other day about something else that is going on in my life. And he's like, you don't really get to reap the rewards often. You reap the consequences. So, people don't notice the reward all the time, but they sure will notice the consequences. So depending, like, if you are feeling and you're angry and it's not going to end well, and you share and you're still angry, pause, like, wait, sit down with someone and share, and maybe together come up with an act. Because again, if you do something and act out of character, that is how it's going to be remembered. And even the quotes of, it's about how you respond, that's what really resonates with people. I think that's really important. um and the whole idea of positivity, and I think I said this last episode, you and I aren't rainbow sunshine unicorns 24/7, right? Like,
No,
a
no.
lot of people think that, maybe. And that's great. I want people to think that, but we're also human. But we choose every day to be positive. It's not every moment in the day, but we
Mhm.
gather ourselves, we do those 3 steps, and then we choose positivity again.
Just to reflect on that real quick, and that gratitude and positivity, I've been trying to get in the mindset of doing it very first thing in the morning when I first get up.
Yes, the gratitude.
I might share some quote that I find, and like, you know what I mean? Just something that would, and I do this for a reason. Like I said, it's because like so many of us, like we're starting to think about, oh my gosh, I have this today. Oh my God. And before the stress and fear and panic comes in, you know what? Let's just breathe, take a moment and just focus on something that we're looking forward to today, something that's a wonderful moment, great, you know what I mean? A great moment. So like gratitude can have such, in this quote here, gratitude can have such a powerful impact on your life because it engages your brain in a virtuous cycle.
Mm-hmm.
Of that quote. I mean, like I said, we focus on so many different things. And like I said, so when the negatives come in, it's like as we start to focus on the positives and acting on them and having those steps or having those tools, like having that little pocket to pull something out of our positive pockets, let's say. So
Right.
if there was something that wasn't so positive, I need to pull something out to help me. Do you know what I mean? And
Right.
to move on. So we have to be aware of our own thinking. That was another line that Mandy has here that I love. So and that just kind of goes into surrounding yourself with positive people. And it's a hard thing because sometimes we have to, like deal with those who are always negative. But I like, just by reading what Mandy said here, that's helped me, is that do it when we have to, but not purposely. Do you know what I mean? Like we can distance ourselves, and that's okay, because when it all comes down to it, it's about us and having that self-care and that positive mindfulness and gratitude to move forward. So, and I said, and heal the past.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, and if there was something that we did that we're not happy about, learn how we can forgive ourselves, because like I've learned, it was like a learning experience a lot of
Right.
things. So
A lot of it ties to energy bus, right? Who's going to be
yes,
on your bus? What kind of perspective are you going to take? How are you going to? So
yes,
100% I agree. And it turns into that on page 113 about that trigger. You know, you have to
yes,
take the time, and this could be in your reflection, find that trigger, change the action, and then find the reward. So, you bring up the example of waking up and being mindful of gratitude. I've been trying real hard. My phone is next to my bed. Not so I can read it before I fall asleep, but so that my alarm, I actually wake up. Because you know me, I love sleep. But I am trying really hard that the first thing I do is not look on my phone. Like I'll just turn off my alarm and get up and go to the bath. Like I'm trying to be really intentional because sometimes depending on what's on my phone, it is a trigger. I go right away into work then, and I don't want that. So I need to learn to figure out my trigger, change that action, and then, find the reward of it. And I think it takes a lot of time to figure out triggers, and some are
Yes.
more serious than others. So,
Yes. And you know what? It can be done. Like I said, identify the trigger, change the action, find the rewards. And and then she just put here, like toward the end of our on page 114, our brains are amazing tools, and knowing we can rewire them to be more positive is powerful. Rewiring our brain. It's not something quick that we can do. It takes time. It takes strategies. It takes, okay, this worked well, great. And then sometimes it might be something that's like that 3 steps forward and 4 steps back. And then the next time it might be 2 steps forward, 1 step back. You know what I mean? Like we're slowly starting to move in that direction. I keep saying that a lot, but it's just how my mind is thinking right now in that positive direction. So
yeah, awesome. And then, finally, chapter 7 here about the self-care and social emotional support, just an overview. She has a great strategy in here and a great activity. So we're going to encourage you to, read this chapter specifically and work through that activity. It starts on page 121.
yes.
But a couple of reminders that she says, like, first, self-care can't be done for you, right? You need to meet it halfway too. Like you need to do the self-care. And then second, when she said, it's difficult working in a profession, this is on page 118, where our entire efficacy, like how we believe we're making that impact and the confidence we have in ourselves, is wrapped up in how someone else is doing. It goes also to our compassion fatigue, burnout sometimes. Yet we need to move from focusing on them to focusing on us. And then for the third one, you have to remember, like, we don't know what to do sometimes for self-care. And it goes with her quote on 119, how do you practice self-care when you've forgotten what makes you feel like you? I'm notorious for her. She even mentioned it. She was vulnerable and put herself out there, like saying, oh, when things slow down, I'm going to
Yes.
do this. Like during the pandemic, I was great with self-care strategies. Fantastic. Because I didn't have tons of things on my plate. Now I have some habits, but not all. And sometimes when we say we don't know what to do, like I did the exercise that she said on page 121. One of my things is binge watching Netflix, but it's taking me a while to be okay with that being okay as one of my things. And some may say that's healthy, some may say it's not, but not to feel shame in what you choose for your self-care, as long as it's a healthy,
Mhm.
like you're not doing anything harmful to your body. But Jim, what are your thoughts on chapter 7?
Chapter 7, like I said, just starting to finding the balance. Finding the balance with my professional role, how I can support others, but then also starting to find more time for that self-care and not feel guilty about it. Not to, like they say that we're like when some people say, oh, you're being selfish for taking a day off. You're being selfish for it. No, I'm not. Because in order to fill my cup, you know what I mean, keep my cup full to help others, I have to find those self-care ways, which I love that analogy she had in here. Finding like ways that I need to fill my cup. So, like I said, if it's taking a day off, or if it's just taking some time to go for a walk, or just something that I enjoy doing. And Becky, I feel guilty. Like we're not, no, no, I'm sorry. I do not feel guilty.
There you go.
I do admit that right now, I think it's like I'm trying to refine some of my interests again.
Yeah.
There are some interests that I still enjoy doing that I'm looking forward to. Like I'm looking forward to getting the kayak out in the spring.
Right.
Last year I was guilty of, I took it out one time last year because I kept saying, well, when I'm not so busy, well, when I'm not doing, and you know what, I'm always finding myself doing things around the house or finding like other things that I have to get done at that moment that comes first. And I thought, no, that can wait. And
Right.
that's one of my goals this year is to focus on more of those times for me. But like I said, in that last quote, how do you practice self-care when you've forgotten what makes you feel like you?
Mm-hmm.
That is one of the areas that I'm focusing on this year, because you know what? I may find a new interest. And you know what? I'm going to be really excited about it. So,
There you go.
so stay tuned. We'll see if there's something new that comes like my way.
Perfect.
But anyway, and I was just going to say rediscovering and just enjoy those moments.
Yeah.
So I love this chapter going into the 5 guidelines for self-care. I mean, we'll talk a little bit about that next time again, but otherwise it's like, I'm starting to realize that it's okay to say no at times.
Mhm.
It's always guilty of that. Yes, 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 yes. And at the same time, I'm finding myself just going down because not finding the time.
Well, and it all comes down to balance, and no one can make those
Yes.
decisions for you but you. And you also have to understand, I've been having some of these conversations with people. You have to understand when you're saying no for the right reasons. And Mandy mentions about, is it aligned to your passion? Is it aligned to your values?
Yes.
No, you shouldn't be saying yes to something that is not aligned to that, because your whole heart's not going to be in it. And then it's going to feel like a chore and it's going to lead to burnout. But there are some things in life that we have to push through. I talk with my little all the time. It's not like every day I want to come to work, but I know I have to come to work, and I'm thankful for my work. I love my work. But you know, it's important that we remember that it's not like we want to do everything every day.
No.
But some things you have to push through. But there are some things that are hard, like, no, this is not for me. So always, it's again, comes to self-discovery, that journey, and finding the right balance. I know I'm stealing your word there. Your journey.
You are, but that's okay. I mean, you know what? It's like they were going to find that probability and power at this moment right now.
I
So
know, right? Look, I changed my word of the year.
so, but finding the positives, the self-talk as well. I mean, just finding some of those ways that what can you do?
Right.
Like, what have you done in this last week to feel less overbooked? And you know what? And especially, let me just say to all of you that if you're like, oh, I really need to think because I don't think I ever took that time. Take the time.
Yeah. Do it now. Go get a cup of coffee and do it now. So we will see you all next week. Thank you for joining us, and we look forward to it.
All right. Have a great day. Take care.